Hello everybody, wanted to do a video showing how to split a Mounjaro injector into multiple doses. There are two methods that we could employ. The first is we could disassemble the auto-injector and get at the syringe that's in there. The second is we can inject into a sterile intermediate container and then use that to draw individual doses from. This video will be using the sterile intermediate container. We have a few options. We could choose sterile vials. These are available on Amazon and they're only about $1 each. This is a 1 milliliter example. And over here we have a 2 milliliter example. They're the same diameter. I find that the 2 milliliter is a little bit easier to hang on to. It's just a little bit taller, so easier to handle. So for this example, we'll use the 2 milliliter. The brand is KS Tech on Amazon, but I'm sure any would work as long as it's guaranteed to be sterile. Okay, another approach is we could inject into a 1 milliliter TB syringe. The one I'll be using today is a 25 gauge, 5/8 inch, 1 milliliter syringe. First thing I'll do is open the alcohol pad and get it ready. And then I want to remove the cover from the sterile vial. It just pops right off like that. Then for a brand new vial, you probably don't have to do this step, but it doesn't hurt. Clean the top of it with alcohol. Then we're going to pretend just like we're injecting skin with this. So we're going to remove the bottom, and then we're going to place it on top, take the safety off, and just press the trigger. Now I should mention one other thing. Typically, you want to maintain 1 atmosphere of pressure inside of these little vials. So if you're going to put a 1/2 milliliter of volume into the vial, you'd want to stick an empty syringe in there and pull a 1/2 milliliter of air out. So that's the proper way, and it keeps you from getting either a vacuum or an overpressure situation in the vial. I am purposely not doing that tonight because I wanted this to be sort of a worst case scenario. So maybe someone didn't do that or you forgot to do it. I just want to see if this will work just like this. So being centered is the important part, but it's fairly easy because the hole is just a little bit larger than the top of the vial. And you can just place it on there and rock it back and forth till you're convinced that you're centered. Then we'll take the safety off and then you'll just inject it. So it went through the cycle, it retracted. There's no spillage. And there's our 1/2 milliliter of Mounjaro safely in the vial. So let's talk about getting it out of the intermediate container and into you. So this is the Mounjaro injector disassembled, just to give you an idea of what the syringe inside of it looks like. And it has a 1/2 inch long needle that's somewhere around 30 gauge. So what you want to do is find some insulin syringes. These are typically 0.3 milliliters or 30 units. You can get different sized ones. This is kind of a convenient size. And you're going to draw it from the vial and just inject it like you would any other medicine. In this case, this is a 15 milligram pen, and I want a 5 milligram dose this week. So I know that I need 1/3 of that volume. It was 0.5 milliliters or 50 units if you're going by units. So I need about 1/3 of that, so I'll use about 16 units. So the proper way to do this is remove the cap, draw up 16 units of air, inject the 16 units of air into the vial, and then you'll draw back your 16 units and inject. So what if we don't have sterile vials handy, but we do have TB syringes? For this, you'll need about a 1 milliliter TB syringe, and let's take a look at how to use it as the intermediate container. We use the same technique for our Wegovy video, but you'll find it's a lot easier with Mounjaro than with Wegovy, just based on how the injector works. So in this case, we're going to use a slip tip 1 milliliter syringe, and we'll pull the tip off, and we'll open up the Mounjaro, and you can actually slide. Well, let's back this down to 1 milliliter. Leave it about right there. And you can slide the needle into the open tip on the syringe, so that's down inside. Now this next step's a little bit tricky, definitely need both hands, but we're going to unlock it and we're going to hold it and we're going to inject just straight into the syringe while holding it up and down. Here, let's get in frame. You also want to make sure you're holding the plunger so it won't move during this process. So there it goes. And then you can gently raise it up and let the cycle finish. So it fully retracted, there's nothing spilled, and we have our medicine right here in the syringe. And you can just put the cap back on just in case you were to drop it so you don't lose it all. And it's safe and sound. And I like to let the bubbles settle. So that's the purpose of the champagne glass. So let's talk about how to get the Mounjaro out of the TB syringe and into the insulin syringe for injection. Since you already have it in the TB syringe, one possibility is to backload the insulin syringe. So remove the plunger, place it somewhere clean, take the TB syringe, and just insert into the back of it, and then inject until you get the right amount. The problem you're going to have is the small insulin syringes, like these 30-unit ones, are very narrow inside, so you tend to get an air bubble. It's difficult to have the liquid run down to the front. It's difficult to know if you have the right amount in there or not. But once you get what you think is the right amount, you place the plunger on it. Don't press down yet. Carefully invert it, and then you can press and remove the air bubble and see if you got the right amount that you want. I find this a little difficult because the air bubbles really tend to get trapped in these small diameter ones. Another option is you could remove the needle on the TB syringe, make sure the liquid level is at the top, and then you can just draw directly from it until you get the amount you need. And as the liquid level drops, just press down a little bit and see it come up and draw some more. And this is certainly difficult. It's easy to spill here. That's why I like the sterile vial method a lot better. So some of you will ask, why bother with an insulin syringe? We already have it in the TB syringe. Why not inject directly from the TB syringe? You could certainly do that, and I have done it, but I don't like the idea because of something called dead space. If you look at how these syringes are built, you can never get all of the fluid out of the snout part where the needle attaches. And it doesn't matter if it's slip tip or lure lock. It doesn't matter if it's conventional or even a low dead space like the one on the right. I've measured these, and the one on the left actually has 0.09 milliliters of dead space, and the better one on the right had 0.07 milliliters. So this could be a significant amount of the dose that you want. So I just like using these as an intermediate container if I have to, if I don't have sterile vials handy. And then I'll draw with an insulin syringe from here and do the injections that way, because insulin syringes are truly zero dead space. There's no extra room in there anywhere for the medicine to get wasted. If you are injecting from a TB syringe and you don't want to waste any medicine due to the dead volume, there is a technique called the airlock technique that you can use to squeeze out the last little bit just using a bubble of air. So first I want to make sure my needle is on tight, and I'm going to draw back about an extra milliliter or so and let that settle a bit so I have air sitting on top of the medicine. And now I'm going to inject this into my sterile vial, pretending I was injecting just into myself. And that air bubble, I don't know if I can get focus here, but that air bubble is going to press out the last little bit. So now I have a full 1 milliliter of Mounjaro in my 2 milliliter vial.